welcome to December. It's a new month, and I don't know if you've noticed, but when I look outside and I see my trees, I see that all those beautiful fall color leaves have fallen to the ground, and I just see some naked tree branches. So I thought it would be fun if we made an artwork that reflects the transition from fall into winter. And we will be making something called Agamographs. It's a 3D artwork that looks different depending on how you're looking at it. So we will be making fall drawings, fall trees, just like this, that will transition into winter trees. So from the front, it kind of looks a little confusing, but if you look at it from one side, you will see some fall trees. And when you look at it from the other side, you'll see a winter tree with a landscape. So gather your materials. I'm excited to make some art with you. Agamographs get their name from Israeli artist Yaakov Agam, who is known for making kinetic art. Kinetic art is art that can move on its own or can change when the viewer moves around it. He invented Agamographs, but he also architected buildings and this fountain, which is in Israel. Agamographs have inspired other artists, such as the architect of this building, which is located on Sandy Boulevard in Portland. And it has also been used in billboards and other advertisements, such as this one. To make your Agomograph, you will need 2 pieces of paper that are the same size. Set one aside and fold the other one in half. Open it up and cut along the fold line. These 2 pages will be the 2 different images in your Agomograph. Our Agomograph is going to focus on winter and fall trees. So on one of the papers, I'm starting to draw a tree with different branches coming out of it. It's okay if your tree looks a little bit different than mine, but we do want to see lots of nice branches. When I look at the trees outside my window, I notice that branches get skinnier the further away they are from the tree trunk. So when you draw your tree branches, you might want to draw it that way, skinnier as they get further away from the trunk. Now let's add some tree roots, and don't forget a horizon line where the sky meets the ground. To make your second tree, you could just put your other piece of paper right on top of your first drawing and trace it. If you're having a hard time seeing your lines, you can also hold your papers up to a window, and the light shining through the window might make it easier for you to see the lines that you need to trace. To make your 2 trees feel like they are experiencing different seasons, you might want to add some extra drawings to your pictures. For my fall tree, I decided to draw some pumpkins around it. What else would you want to add to your fall tree? A scarecrow, Halloween decorations? It's up to you. For my winter tree, I decided to add a couple snowmen to my picture. I wanted one to look further away, so I drew it kind of small and it was touching my horizon line. The one that was bigger, I drew closer to the bottom of my paper, which would be the foreground, and I drew the circles for my snowman's body much bigger. Now let's add some color. You can use any coloring tools that you would like to work with. I'm using colored pencils. Your winter tree doesn't need any leaves, but I did use oil pastels to add some snowflakes. For my fall tree, I just used the warm colors plus brown, and I added some scribbly leaves all around my branches. Now we need to cut both of our drawings into 1-inch strips. This is probably the trickiest part of this project, so don't be afraid to ask a grown-up for help if you need it. Use a measuring tape or a ruler to mark off a 1-inch section. So anytime you see a long line with a number next to it, put a little mark there with your pencil. Do this one more time somewhere else on your paper and use a straight edge from a book or your ruler. I'm using the edge of a magazine here to connect your lines. Now, my paper was actually 5.5 inches wide. Because of that ½ inch, I had to make my last two strips on the right side just a teensy bit narrower or skinnier, but that's okay, it'll still work out. You might need to do the same thing if you have a ½ inch wide paper as well. When you're done with the first tree, repeat the same steps on your second tree, drawing those lines about 1 inch apart, and then you will cut them into strips. Before we cut, I want you to grab that paper that you set aside at the very beginning. We are going to measure out 1 inch sections on this paper as well. These lines we will not cut. They will actually be guidelines for an accordion fold or a fan fold that we're going to do on this paper. So we are going to fold backwards and forwards in opposite directions, trying to stay on these lines as best as we can, but it's okay if we go a little bit off. Folding forwards and backwards over and over until we reach the opposite side. I'm rolling a pencil across my folds every now and then just so that I have a nice sharp crease. Once you finish making your accordion fold, cut your tree pictures on the lines that you measured so that your pictures are in thin, even strips. Arrange the strips on the accordion folded paper so that they are in order and all the fall pictures are facing to the left. Once you've got them in the right place, you can start gluing them down. I'm using a glue stick because it's a little bit less messy than a glue bottle, but you can also use tape or even staples would work in a pinch. Now I'm gluing them down, I'm trying to flatten them and making sure that they line up against my creases. Now, if you have really great observation skills, you probably noticed that I actually don't have mine in the right order right now. I didn't realize it while I was gluing it, but hey, even art teachers can make mistakes. Right here is about when I realized, oops, I messed up. And luckily my glue hadn't dried yet, so I was able to peel all the older pieces off and rearrange them without tearing my papers. Once you're done gluing all the strips for your fall tree, repeat this process with the winter tree. They should all be facing towards the right, and double check to make sure they are in the right order so you don't make the same mistake I did. And there you have it, an Agomograph that shows the transition from fall into winter. I can't wait to see the fantastic Agomographs you create.